And we want to turn now to 21-year-old Emily Mann. Emily joining us from Lafayette, Louisiana. Emily, you were sitting in the same row as that shooter. 20 minutes in, you initially thought you were hearing fireworks. When did you know that a gunman was loose in the theater?
Well, after the first shot, there was about a second or two, and then you could hear the remaining shots begin, 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty quickly. So at that point, I looked back to make sure you're hearing the right thing, because you want to be sure that's not what it is. And that's when you see the lights coming out of the gun, and you understand at that point that this is happening, this is real, this is what it is, and you have to react.
And how did you react? That gunman was so methodical. He was taking aim at those closest to him. You were in the same row. How did you manage to escape, Emily?
There were a few girls in between he and I. So to my left, there was a seat and then a couple of girls, and then he was seated as close in the theater as he could have been. And he initially started shooting down, so I had a little bit of time, unfortunately. So at that point, I got down. It's your natural instinct. You see him standing, so he had this aerial view of the theater, and so I got down, and at that point, I couldn't see anymore. You just have to have faith that you can get out of there.
Emily, can you give us a sense of what the gunman's demeanor was like?
After the first shot, I looked behind me to ensure that that's what was happening, and I could see him standing, and he was wearing a hat, dark clothes, and just from that, there's something ominous happening. So at that point, he seemed sure, but anyone with a gun would seem sure, I think, when you're in a room with those who don't have them.
Was there ever a moment that you made contact with the shooter, or a moment that you thought you'd been shot?
No, and I think at that point, I was crawling down, and you can't see, so there's a fear in that. There's always a fear in what you can't see, and you hear the shots, so you know they're coming, and you're just kind of waiting for it a little bit.
You said that the theater was pretty packed that night. You went with a friend that you hadn't seen in a while, but what was that scene like of everyone trying to get out of the theater in just a matter of moments? Was it chaotic?
As chaotic as that situation can be, there was an understanding amongst everyone there that we were in this situation together. That's the community here. So as chaotic and as loud and the screaming, it was all to warn each other and to help each other.
Emily, I've got to ask you, how lucky do you feel to be alive this morning?
As lucky as I feel to be alive, I feel even luckier to live here and to be part of this community we've built together, a community I was born into. I was born here, grown up here, and I think we all feel lucky. We feel lucky to have the opportunity to learn from this and to overcome it.
Your community is so resilient, and you guys are really coming together at a time of tragedy. Emily, we want to thank you for joining us this morning on GMA.
Thank you so much.
She says this sort of thing doesn't happen in Lafayette, Louisiana, which was voted one of the happiest places on earth, but it's great to see that community coming together at such an awful time.
I think we're all tired of hearing about these mass shootings, and I wish I could say this is the last one we'll cover. Unfortunately, probably not. Paula, thank you.